What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The celestial compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Biehl. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Biehl.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Kathy Biehl of EmpowermentUnlimited.net, coming to you bravely during a Uranian kicked off Mercury retrograde. I'm going to start with a brief recap of what's going on astrologically this month, and we do have Mercury retrograde until the middle of the month. I have a guide to it at OMTimes.com where you can get pointers for navigating it and also key dates during the retrograde. But two other big things going on this month to watch out for. One, we're seeing, feeling, it's certainly all over the news, and that is the May 5th Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse is a full moon on steroids, a very, very intense time, and it's in the most intense sign of the zodiac. So a lot is coming out from the depths, a lot of revelations, a lot of things that you've been trying to keep under wraps or perhaps haven't quite faced. This is a terrific time for purging, for doing rituals to let go, for cleaning your closets in ways that you didn't even think possible. Definitely clean your bathroom. And say goodbye to a lot. Do not clutch anything that's trying to go right now. The next big thing to know is that in the middle of the month, we've got Pluto at the very first degree of Aquarius until early June. And at the middle of the month, Jupiter, which amplifies everything it touches, slides into earthbound Taurus and immediately slams into Pluto, which means if you have been wondering about the realignments of power or what this fabled Pluto in Aquarius means for you for the next 20 plus years, something really big will get your attention at that time. Doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Don't fear it. Do know that the second half of the month becomes, can you believe I'm going to say these words, calmer and calmer and calmer, and we will all be kissing the ground at that point. You can catch the full forecasts for both the month and the lunar eclipse at my site, empowermentunlimited.net, and also at OMTimes.com. Two other little bits. I have two books just now coming out. One of them is called Reflections, and it is an anthology by members of Best American Psychics of our experiences in a number of different ways that basically explain to people who aren't burdened like we are how we actually manage to exist in the world. And the other one is the subject of today's show. We are going to explore going on an archaeological dig into the self with the author of the new book, Your Guide to Self-Discovery, 20 Ways to Find the True You. Our guest is Georgina Cannon, an award-winning author, change catalyst, corporate speaker, international facilitator, and practicing consulting hypnotist who brilliantly and skillfully uncovers the powers of the subconscious mind-body connection, working through relationship and life issues with clients both personally and for business. Her books include Return Again, How to Find Meaning in Your Past Lives, and the Third Circle Protocol, How to Relate to Yourself and Others in a Healthy, Vibrant, Evolving Way, Always and All Way. Welcome, Georgina.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction.
Well, it's your bio, so and and a disclaimer to everyone, I did contribute a chapter on astrology to this guide. There are, Georgina is the lead author and has quite a bit in it, and then there are a number of other people who have contributed their own views on different tools that you can use for self-discovery. And I think it is a unique and unconventional package of tools. And I'm curious, how did you come up with the idea for this guide?
Well, after being in practice with hypnosis since 2000, or before then actually, I realized that people are visioning themselves the way other people have told them to be. In other words, when we grow up, excuse me one second, when we grow up, we take on a vision of ourselves that our parent gives us, or our teachers gives us, or society gives us. And it becomes our truth. And it dawned on me that we are so much more than that. We are more than we think we are. Not only do we have the inheritance of our ancestors, but we also have the soul inheritance of other lifetimes. But we also have talent and understandings that we're never credited with. Plus, and taking that, plus looking at history, I realized that since time began, people have always been interested and fascinated by different forms of understanding of their future, whether they're casting stones or having astrology readings or reading cards or just calling the gods. So I figured it was time to pull everything together. And through signs and symbols, some of which are ancient and some of which are very modern, I contacted experts, of which you are one, from around the world, to ask them to write about their protocol in a way that the reader could find out more about themselves. And at the end of each chapter, there is a little quiz thing where the reader can say, this is what I found out about myself that's different. And then at the end of the book, they have an opportunity to introduce themselves to their new self. For instance, when I was talking to the writer who reads hands, and I asked her, how do you do this over Zoom? She said, well, hold up your hand to the screen. So I did, and she said, you're resilient. Oh, I said, I never thought of myself as resilient, but as I look back over my life, indeed, I am resilient. So there are different aspects. We're like gemstones, different facets. Every time you turn a different piece to the light, you get a different look at it, a different perspective. And that's what made it exciting to me. So I contacted all these wonderful people, including you, and asked you if you'd be interested, and you said yes.
And it was
so did
fun.
Other 18 people. It's fun. It is fun.
Actually, it is. It's quite fun. It's not a ponderous book at all. It's extremely easy to read, and the voices are different every chapter. It's very clearly a different voice coming through. But I am curious, how did you settle on the topics that were going to be in the book?
Because I've done some therapy training as well. I wanted to include some modern thinking, such as family constellations, birth order, NLP, things like that. But I also wanted to go back in time to astrology, face reading, hand reading, spirit guides. So I wanted to balance the whole idea of finding out about yourself, mind, body, and spirit. And that was my guiding light. I wanted to make sure that all parts of the human were included, mind, body, and spirit. But I also wanted to make it fun and easy, so that when you finish reading, you've got a map of your new self. And I thought that was so cool. I also suggest in the book that when you do that, take a picture of your new self and put it up there at the back of the book with your new biography of who you are, who you really are, not who you've been told you are.
I'm
Does that make
curious.
sense?
Yes, it does. And I'm curious, as you started assembling the topics, did you like evolve in what you were looking for? Did someone suggest something that made you go, "Oh, wait a minute, I should have this in
Yeah,
here"?
someone suggested anagrams because that, never occurred to me. So that was one suggestion. But the others sort of fell into each other because I've studied this for such a long time. Coming from England, of course, we always believe in ghosts and fairies, and I see auras, but I thought everybody did when I first came to Canada, and it took me a while to realize that not everybody was on the same wavelength, literally the wavelength. So it's not new stuff to me, but I'm glad I could add things like karma and enneagrams and different understandings of how to look at yourself in a different way. Also, we've got dreams in there and animal guides and Akashic records. I mean, so it spans the whole spectrum of mind, body, and spirit,
And
modern and ancient.
each chapter, to a certain extent, actually gives you guidelines for how to work with whatever the tool is. It doesn't just describe the tool.
Right. Gives you guidelines on how to do it. Without going into great depth, but it does suggest that if you want more depth, which I think, particularly with certain practices, we need it, where the person is who wrote the chapter and how you can contact them. And that's important too.
I thought that the numerology and the palm reading, hand reading ones were extremely well laid out. You could walk into it knowing nothing and just go, "Oh, 1, 2, 3. Huh, yeah, okay."
Yeah, and there's pictures of the hands with the diagrams, right, with the lines drawn on it, so you can start looking at your hands and say, "Oh, that's I guess me," or "That's not me," or And if you want more, again, you contact the author, which is great. And I'm looking at the list here of chapters because I keep forgetting. So everything from the Akashic records to NLP, to your auras, how to meet your angels, face reading. That's an ancient Chinese art. And I write about past lives. And Grandmother Crow writes about finding your animal guide. And then we have Leanne McAleer, who's Canadian. She heads up the Center for Innovation at the university, York University, and she wrote about creativity. What sort of creative person are you? And she broke it down into 4 different types of creativity, and that was fascinating to me. I didn't realize it. What else have we got? Emotional intelligence and dreams, birth order, and of course, astrology.
I'd like to talk about the 3 chapters that you wrote because they take, one of them is something that would occur to a lot of people, and 2 of them not so much. Your first one is karma and how you can change it. Can you explain the concept of karma that you use?
Yeah, the concept of karma is that we have brought something from our past lives into our current life, which has to be worked through. As an example, if you've come into a family that's abusive and you find yourself a victim of life, and as you go through life, you choose the wrong partner, or you choose the wrong jobs, and you always end up being victimized somehow. It's quite possible you brought that in with you from a previous lifetime. So if you do a past life regression journey and you find out that you have been living various lives as a victim, whether they be as a slave or a very restricted 18th century gentlewoman where society made you stay home and do needlepoint and that was it, then you have to decide if you want to continue that way or not. So you look at yourself very clearly and say, okay, I brought this in with me. I don't want it. So what can I do to make myself or move from victim to hero in my life? And that's when I work with clients, or you certainly do it yourself, by saying, I'm going to build my boundaries. I'm going to behave this way in the future, and I'm going to become a hero of my life. I'm going to write the book of my life. Nobody else is going to write it for me. I'm going to change my karma. And once you make that decision and put that decision into action, your life changes and your karma changes. Does that answer
And that
your
fits
question?
astrologically with what we have on tap this year and next year. So it's very well timed. Yes, no, it makes complete sense. The notion that you're not at the mercy of all kinds of outer conditions or even inner conditions, that there's a good deal of latitude about what you can harness and start shifting in yourself.
No question. Even people in refugee camps in the worst possible environments, there are always people who rise to the top, who help others, who become teachers, or find food for others, and some people become a victim. You always have a choice, no matter what you're faced with. I truly believe that.
Now, since you mentioned past lives in connection with karma, past lives and is actually one of your other chapters, and people generally, I mean, if you know much about it, you think, oh, you sit in a room and somebody puts you under and you mumble a bunch of stuff and try to remember it. What can
It's a little bit like that, yes.
I can recall once was trying to figure out a particularly challenging reaction that I was having to a woman in my sphere, and I was I was taken under, and I was immediately on the deck of the Titanic, and I went, nope, nope, coming out. Don't, no, we're not. No, do not tell me I pushed her over the edge. Nope.
So
So,
you never did find out.
oh no, I love that one sit. Like, nope, we're just not going to go near that one. Um, but can you elaborate on the approach to past lives that you have in the book?
Sure. My approach to past lives really is to solve an issue. For instance, I got rid of my migraines with past life regression. I'm not suggesting that migraines come from past lives for everyone at all, but mine disappeared after I found out the root cause of it. And do you want to know
And you
the
do
story?
tell that story in the book.
Oh, I do. Okay, so shall I repeat
Yeah.
it here or not?
Oh, why not? I think it's a really instructive story.
Okay, so what happened, I went, I was being trained in past lives. This was 1998, 99, something like that. And the person who was working with me as we were practicing asked if there's anything I'd like to search for. And I said, yes, I'd like to find out if for any reason I keep getting migraines, because I used to get them at least 3 or 4 times a month. So he put me into hypnosis, and I regressed back, and suddenly I didn't see anything, but I could smell something appalling. I smelled like rotten garbage. And I kept saying, oh, this stinks. It's horrible. He said, well, pull back, and have a look and see what's causing the smell. And I realized it was me as an old, haggard, ragged woman with maybe 1 or 2 teeth in my mouth, but stringy hair, living in rags, living in a cave just outside a village. And the village was somewhere in Europe. And my role, I used to gather herbs and grasses and I was close to starvation most of the time. But my role was to help the women in the village give birth, or if they were having an abortion or anything to do with that, they'd call me down and I would help them. And they would then give me food. That was the only food I really had. They gave me food if they remembered to give me food. One day I got called down, and this woman was in labor, and she was having a terrible time. She was bleeding badly. The baby was breech and huge, and by the time we managed to get that baby out of her, it had died. It was a male child, and she died of losing so much blood because there was nothing you could do, right? And the women around her, because the women always gathered when there's somebody was giving birth, they just disappeared and left me. So I had to dig holes and bury the baby and the woman in the field, and that's what we did at that time. So there I was, exhausted, having buried two bodies. I dragged myself back up to my cave and fell fast asleep. Then I was woken up very suddenly by someone or something hitting me and kicking me, and I woke up, and it was this man standing over me, yelling at me, telling me I'd killed his wife and his son. And he was obviously drunk and furious, and he was kicking me like I was a rag, and because that's how I was dressed. And I had no strength in me. I just let him do what he did. And at one point, he picked up a rock and brought it down on my head and killed me. And he brought down the rock on the left-hand side of my head, and I died immediately as it splattered my brains and my skull. And that's where I used to get the migraines. The facilitator did all the healing that was necessary in the protocol to bring me back through the healing and through life. And I kept waiting for my migraine to come back, and I've not had one since. The power of past lives works in two ways. First of all, it teaches you what it is you need to learn, and it also allows you to release and relieve some issues that you've been carrying unnecessarily, like anger or sadness or grief, if the soul wants you to go there and do that. Now, sometimes people come in for a past life regression, and they'll say something like, I want to go back to past lives to see why I always choose losers. And I say, well, that might not be a past life, because the soul takes you where it wants you to go, not where you want to go. You might have learned that in this life, but we can certainly see where it takes us. So it's important when you go in for a past life regression anywhere to know that when you do journey back, the soul takes you where it thinks you need to learn the lesson, so that you can ask. You may not get what you want. That was certainly a surprise to me, and I've never had a migraine since.
That's an astonishing testimonial, actually. I have not had one work out. Perhaps it was the facilitator that was the difference. I have not had one work out with that level of clearing. That's really remarkable. So you're not saying if people read the book that they're going to have this, they're just going to start to learn about aspects of themselves.
That's right.
Through past lives.
Yeah. You're going to, for instance, if you have recurring dreams, or if you, it's in there. If you have glimpses of something, you meet someone and you take an instant dislike to them, it could be a past life. Mm-hmm. Or not. I mean, we don't presuppose. We just say, interesting. Could be. Could be. Right. The whom approach, I think, is a very good way to go through life these days. Just I'm taking it under advisement. Yeah. I should tell you that if you were in my clinic and you were on the Titanic about to throw someone overboard, I wouldn't let you come back out. Because I'll tell you why. Because you'll carry that with you. Mm-hmm. It's unfinished business. I know. And that may not be what was about to happen. I did not want to know what was about to happen at that time. Right. Yeah. Right. Oh, well,
Anyway, that was 30 years ago, perhaps.
Ah, okay.
Perhaps I'll approach it again sometime. It's just the first example that came to mind for me here. Um,
I wonder why.
well, because
Maybe
yeah,
to whom you're talking, yes.
maybe.
Yes.
Any rate, and so people know this is something that you do quite a bit in your practice, right?
Oh,
This
this
is some,
and Life Between Lives, yes, yes. A lot of it. In
we
fact,
will
I'm
come
going out
back.
to
Yeah.
Gaia this July again to talk about the book and also past lives. Yeah, out to Boulder.
Hold that thought. We're going to pause now for a break and hang around, everybody. We will be back very shortly.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Want help with your own celestial compass? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, for Astro Insight forecasts for each week, month, and new and full moon. Want to explore the personal impact? Make a decision? Understand another person? It is possible. Click the Services tab to book a personal session with me. That address again, empowermentunlimited.net.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Celestial Compass. We're talking today with Georgina Cannon, the author and creator of Your Guide to Self-Discovery, 20 Ways to Find the True You. And just before the break, we were talking about the 3 topics that Georgina wrote for the book. And the third one is you and your relationships, which I found to be, that was not something I would have expected to be in here. What was your motivation and purpose in that one?
Because people look outside for answers to their relationships, not realizing, and when I say people, I'm talking about the people I have encountered in my practice over the years, not realizing that the most important relationship is with yourself. And when you get that right, and you know who you are and how you are, and you're comfortable in your skin, then you attract the people that recognize who you are. They recognize the character, the person, the being that you are. Because if you're not sure of who you are, or you vacillate, or you don't live your values, then how is anybody else going to know? And all the wrong people will show up, and you'll take them on and blame them for being inappropriate for you. So really, the protocol is understanding that every relationship we have, whether it be the cashier at the supermarket or you and I, there's expectations. It's an unwritten contract. You expect something from me, and I expect something from you. And it's unspoken. But we also do that with ourselves. And unless we have a value system that we live by, not we talk about, because quite often I'll say to clients, for instance, what are your values? Excuse me. And most often they'll say things like kindness or integrity or laughter. And I say, okay, are you kind to yourself? Well, sometimes. Do you have integrity with yourself? Do you always tell yourself the truth? And they laugh. Well, I try to. But if you don't live your values, if you are not your values, then you have no boundaries, and B, you're vulnerable. When you really live your values and you're comfortable in your skin, then you'll find partnerships and relationships that really are strong and nurturing for yourself and each other. And I'm not talking only about lovers. I'm talking about friends and colleagues, because you really know who you are. They know who you are. And by the way, you can't get sideswiped when you're comfortable in your skin.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So this book was written mainly for people who were busy being told who they were, or grew up believing something and not really living their character, their values, their persona. Is this making sense?
Yes. And the relationship chapter actually has lists that you can look at of values and priorities and go, well, okay, I've got that. Nope. Yep. Yeah, so it's not just a theoretical discussion.
No.
And
no. So you go through that list and you see what you have and what you need to work on. And once you've got that sorted out, you make a plan on how to work on it, and make that plan part of your value system, part of your priorities for the next 6 to 12 months. So there's nothing better than feeling comfortable in your skin. There really isn't. And that helps you get through Mercury retrograde.
Helps you not take things personally that happen.
That's right.
Yeah, this wasn't me, or this was me, and you own up. Yeah.
Yeah. And you also realize that, you don't expect a dog to meow and a cat to bark. People are who they are, but if you don't know who you are, you're not behaving in your truth or living your truth.
And it seems to me people can be entering into a relationship with an illusion, which I think happens a lot of times.
Yes.
I've seen this in actually a number of marriages where there were certain ground rules, and then a good 15, 16 years into the relationship, one of the people woke up and said, this is not who I am, and all kinds of chaos ensued.
Yeah. If you live your values, and you both talk about it to your partner, and you both understand what your values are, and you write a contract, which is revisited every 6 to 12 months, to make sure you're all on the same page with the contract, then you know where you are. It makes life so much easier, much less struggle.
And that seems to be the approach. I mean, you shaped the book, even though people wrote their own chapters. I do recall you had a vision for what you wanted the reader to be able to get out of at least my chapter, and I imagine you did that with everyone. And so your goal here is for this to not just be you have kind of an action-oriented agenda for the reader in this.
Yeah, so find out about yourself, find out what piece you didn't know about before, and make it work for you. Become it. become your best self so that you can celebrate life and understand how connected your life is to everything around you. And once people do that, it's amazing, whether they're spiritual or not, they suddenly realize the connection. It's quite extraordinary. Once people are comfortable in their skin, they begin to celebrate spring. They begin to celebrate creativity, however it shows up. It almost brings like a sparkle into their eyes and into their heart and into their life. It's glorious to see. And women's groups are using it a lot for self-esteem and self-confidence, that book of relationships, yeah.
I could see this particular guide being something that could be given to people who haven't really dipped their toes into this kind of thought. It seems accessible to me. That seems to have been the goal in the way you set it up. Am I reading something into it?
No, that's quite right, which is why I've put in some things like NLP, which the corporate world understands, right?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah, neuro-linguistic programming, they would understand it. And the birth order, psychologists and psychiatrists understand that. Plus, what others might call woo-woo stuff, which is what you and I do, yes.
That's correct.
Yes, I'm happy to say, yes.
You didn't put the fairy realm in here, though, working with the elementals, but that's okay. That's a different thing.
That's the book after next, yes. Yes, we do regress back to that sometimes.
So you had mentioned briefly right before. Well, there are a couple of things I want to ask you about. You said you're going to Gaia this summer.
Mm-hmm. I've been invited back, and talk to. Oh dear, my brain's gone dead.
You said you were going to talk about the book.
Talk about the book, absolutely. Yeah, I've been to Gaia a few times, and they've invited me back this time. And, oh, no. Oh, don't, please. His name's gone right out of my head. The guy who does the midnight radio show, what's his name? Oh, dear. I'm really, my agent's going to kill me, too.
Oh, Mercury, I see your handiwork here.
Yes. It'll come from the back of my head to the front very shortly. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, then let's go
but I am
someplace
going
else.
back. Yes, please.
So, where else we're going to go? You mentioned that in your work, you mentioned the in-between lives.
Life between lives, yes.
Life between lives. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, it's quite wonderful. It's the space between lifetimes. You know, when you die and you go into something before you are reincarnated into another life. So, what is that space in between? Well, the space in between is the interlife, where the soul goes home. And it's the most extraordinary journey because you're greeted by your guides or guide, and that they can show up either as somebody you know, like a grandparent, a beloved grandparent, or Buddha, or Jesus, or Mother Mary, or just light. And there are many stations along the way, and they may take you to your soul circle, the souls that you've traveled with from lifetime to lifetime. They can take you from there into a place of rest and relaxation. If the lives beforehand have been very difficult, you may need space and time just for the soul to rest. Then you can go to a laboratory where you look at your energies, and you can go to a library, the Akashic Records, and from there you can go to the council, the wise elders, and that's the most wonderful place. where you're received with unconditional love, with these avatars, these wise, wise elders. And you can ask them questions, and they give you guidance. And then from there, you go to the place of your life choice. And you find out why you chose to come into this life as male or female, whatever color you are, whatever sexual orientation you are, whatever country you're born into, and your family, what your life purpose is, and why you chose that body to come in as. So it's profound.
So you facilitate this for individuals?
Yes. Yes.
And
but they have to do a past life journey first, because they have to learn to recall the memory, record it, and speak it. So, because this is only soul work, that practice ahead of time. So the life between lives, or the interlife journey, is something they have to do beforehand. And by the way, the name I was trying to remember, and George, please forgive me, George Norrie.
Okay.
I'm going to
Right.
see George Norrie on Gaia, yes.
I knew it was going to come to you. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes. So the interlife is a place where you really do find your life purpose. And the other thing it does, if you were born into an unfortunate family, it shows you why you chose that life. Because if the family didn't have a light enough for you, or even for themselves, maybe that's the purpose of your journey this time, so that you could find your own light and shine it and embody it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a profound, beautiful journey. And I learned that from Michael Newton. Yeah.
Oh, this is not one I'd heard of, so thank you for explaining that. So what is next? What is next for this guy? Do you are making appearances, places, talking, spreading the word?
I'm doing book signings in my local bookstores, a chain in Toronto. I'm also appearing, I'm told, by my agent and by Llewellyn on various podcasts and radio networks, but I don't know what they are yet. They'll plug them into my calendar, and I'll open my calendar on a Monday and go, oh, so that's what my week looks like. So I don't know yet. Being an Aries, I'm okay with everything. Aries, Pisces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
March 21st, Aries, Pisces.
Oh, my.
Yes. Which is good and bad. Yeah, it's good. Actually, it's good.
So I'm wondering, what else do you have coming up?
I teach at the University of Toronto. So I teach hypnosis over 3 semesters. I have some past life regression training coming up for hypnotists, and life between lives facilitation. So I teach them how to do that if they're already hypnotists. And what else have I got coming up? The book, the teaching. Oh, writing. I'm still writing. I'm writing another book, but I can't talk about that because my agent gets upset. I don't want her to get upset.
Right.
And,
well, that's fine.
And I do about 3 or 4 things at one time, all tied in together. But I love the teaching, and I see clients, of course, in the clinic, but on Zoom. Everything's on Zoom these days. So Tuesdays and Thursdays I see clients and help change their life. In the training, the students tell me that the 3 semesters totally changes their life, because I believe in not only talking about what it is they're going to learn, but getting them to do it. So right from the day one, they practice what they're learning. So over 3 different semesters. So first semester is about pattern changing through hypnosis. The second level is about using NLP in hypnosis and using different modalities. And the third level is spiritual hypnosis, working with chakras, working with the inner child, working in womb healing, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And
that keeps me busy.
yeah, and you also hold regular meditations, right?
Yes, I do. Thank you for reminding me.
Well,
Every
yes,
Friday
Mm-hmm.
at noon Eastern Standard Time, there is a free meditation with a different subject every week. And if you want to join in, just contact my assistant or just contact me through my website, and we'll put you on the list and let you know. We also post it on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. But if you want the mailing to let you know what the subject is and what the Zoom link is, just email me or L. Yeah.
And can you give people a flavor of what recent meditations have had as topics?
Sure. One is called Move Your Body, which gets you to re-exercise. Another one is Meeting Your Soul Circle. I'm just looking at my calendar here and getting the list because it's extensive. And why am I not more prepared for this? I apologize. Let me get this. And a lot of it is spiritual work to do with the soul healing. Understanding your true strengths is another one. Getting beyond stuck is one that people seem to like. And we get people from all over the world, by the way, from Europe. Sometimes there's 20 people. Sometimes there's 150 people on the call. So I never know who's coming in and who's not, but people just show up, and it's great at 12 o'clock. It's about half an hour. Sometimes it goes over, and then we do a little chit-chat afterwards. People ask questions, and it's like a community. It's quite lovely, actually.
It's quite a resource, people. I would encourage you to look into this. I have attended. It's yeah. So, and it's quite generous that you do that, but it's so part of, I think, yeah.
I consider it my service. I think everybody. My life's pretty good. I want to make sure I give back. I have service. This I looked at this week's. It's called Healing the Brain Meditation. Healing the Brain. It's this Friday. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that I'm seeing that in what you're saying, an example of something that I've seen with other people, and it's certainly an approach I like to take, which is why not give people tools to make their lives easier and to feel calmer and actually enjoy being in this lifetime when there's so much chaos and uncertainty going on. And
I'm all for people being empowered. And one of the rules I keep stressing when I teach hypnosis, the client always has the answer. You do not have the answer. You do not tell them what they should be doing or, it would be better for them to do. They have the answer. They may cover it over with dust and noise because it will take a bit of work or it's uncomfortable to start with. But they always have the answer. And our role is to facilitate them in a way that they discover their answer, their strengths, and themselves. And you see the light go on in the eyes, and it's glorious, absolutely glorious, when they get it.
When they get it, right. And you're really never doing anybody a favor by making a decision for them because, in a sense, you're colluding with letting them off the hook for taking responsibility for their own lives.
That's right. And what you really want to do is helping them empower themselves. I equate it to telling a teenager what to do. Unless the teenager comes up with the idea themselves, they're just not going to do it. Right?
I think that's true for most people too. And then then they'll resent you for being the one to tell them to do it, especially if they do it and they know they shouldn't. Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I have
Yes.
many amusing tales. In my past as an attorney, I would frequently run into clients that didn't just want guidance from which they could make a decision, but would want me to actually make the decision for them. And
Right.
one person it was clear what needed to happen. And he was begging me to do it. And I had a magic 8 ball on my desk. And I handed it to him and said, consult the executive decision maker. And he was so startled that he blurted out what we all knew he needed to do.
I love it. I love it. I have a magic wand that when I was in the clinic, I used to put it in, especially for corporate guys. I put it in their hand, and it's a ridiculous looking thing. It's got a plastic handle and a big pink fluffy thing on the top, and ribbons hanging down from it. So I'd put it in their hand, and I'd say, "This is a magic wand. Now close your eyes, and the magic wand will give you the answers." And they were
Oh,
so shocked. They changed state, and they, of course, they got the answers. So, they always have the answer. Always. It may be buried out of fear, or it may be buried out of guilt, or it may be buried out of laziness, or maybe buried because they don't believe they have the power. They've always been told what to do, but they always have the answer. And as long as they feel safe, and they feel that they're in a safe place with you, and you're holding their hand in a way so that they stay safe, they will eventually come up with the answer and the solution and the plan for change.
which takes us full circle back to your guide to self-discovery, 20 ways to
Exactly.
find the true you.
Exactly.
It's just an accordion folder with resources that will help you figure out what's really going on inside of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the true you, who you really are, your best self.
I'm sorry?
Your best self.
Your best self. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. And I've been having a lot of fun telling people about this. And I don't know, I have good feelings about it. And how wonderful that it's a Llewellyn worldwide book.
Yeah.
All right. Very congratulations on getting that.
I have
Could
the
you?
best agent in the world.
Ah, probably because you know yourself so well. You attracted the right person.
I think so. Yes,
Mhm.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. She knows
So
when to let go and when to push and when to let go and when to push. So I chose somebody very, very good. Yeah.
could you tell people where they can find you?
Sure. Toronto, Canada. Just follow your North Star. Follow your North Star. www.georginacannon.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Georgina Cannon Author, and I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Still on Twitter. So am I.
Still on Twitter.
All right, and it's through your website that someone could request to get an invite into the Friday meditations?
Oh, absolutely, yes, and would love, love, love to welcome you. And you'll feel the energy there. It's quite extraordinary when everybody joins in, and they're just all lovely people. And they ask questions afterwards, and it's just a delight. It really is.
Well, I thank you very, very much for spending this hour with me. And what a great blessing. What a way to launch on the 1st of May to kick off this new project, which is in pre-order, and it officially comes out May 8th. Am I correct with that?
You're correct. And by the way, thank you for the invitation. It's a delight to chat with you and laugh with you. You know, not many people know how to laugh on radio. It's so cool. So cool. Thank you.
It's a feature. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. I appreciate it very much. And I wish you great success and renown with the future of this book and where it takes you.
Well, you're the astrologer. It's up to you to make it so. Move the stars around for us.
Yeah, if only I had that power. Ah, yes. I just look at them. Well, anyway, it's
Thank
been
you,
a
Kathy,
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you so much. And everyone remember that there's a Mercury retrograde guide at OMTimes.com. And my forecasts are there at empowermentunlimited.net. And talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Bye now.
Bye.